In 2020, Canada launched an ambitious plan to support their biotech industry to grow a coronavirus vaccine, literally growing in plants.
The first plant-derived vaccine to hit the market ever.
What you might call the world's first vegan vaccine.
It was based on a technology which had been used in the Ebola outbreak 6 years earlier. There was just one problem: big tobacco.
The World Health Organization says Medicago's vaccine has so far not been accepted because of the linkage with the tobacco industry.
To understand how we got to this point, we have to learn a little plant science. You probably have heard about labs that research on mice. We already know a lot about how the mice live, so they become the standard used over and over again in experiments, and they're called model organisms. When you're researching plants, the two most common model organisms are Arabidopsis, a fast-growing plant in the mustard family, and Nicotiana benthamiana, a close Australian relative of the tobacco plant. When Europeans arrived in Australia, they described the first peoples of Australia using the leaves as a type of chewing tobacco and to stupefy emus when hunting them. Over time, the plant used in labs has changed significantly from ones in the wild. What it offers scientists is a quick way to study plants, and particularly plants' immune systems. Yes, plants have an immune system. We know more about the tobacco immune system than any other plant. In the mid-1990s, the United States government, health experts, and news media successfully challenged big tobacco.
I heard virtually all of you touch on it, and just yes or no. Do you believe nicotine is not addictive?
I believe nicotine is not addictive, yes.
The result was a historic, multi-billion-dollar settlement. By the mid-2000s, indoor smoking bans were put in place across the United States, though the specifics vary from state to state. Meanwhile, in Canada, they grow tobacco too, mostly in the tobacco belt of southern Ontario.
There were once more than 4,000 tobacco farms in this province, but as smoking became public health enemy #1, that number crashed.
Smoking bans were passed by Canadian provinces also in the mid-2000s, but their settlement with big tobacco companies was finalized only this year, 2025. To continue on to the next generation, tobacco companies have invested in several post-cigarette products, such as nicotine pouches, e-cigarettes or vapes, and even nicotine gum and other products used to quit smoking. The tobacco companies gained interest in the biofarming industry.
Biopharmaceuticals, plants that one day could be used routinely to wipe out infectious diseases.
During the 1990s, scientists began growing rare and essential proteins in plants. If your body doesn't make certain antibodies, hormones, or blood products, it's just efficient to grow them this way with soil, light, and water. Nicotiana was the most common option for transgenic plant products. Why has this stayed so popular in research?
By using this plant-based technology, they could shorten the time of production considerably.
It's amazing for imaging. So really flat leaves, nice leaves, and you can do something called transient transformation.
The fact that the protein that we want to produces in the leaf, not in the stem. You can see that the plant is almost all leaf, so much more efficiency there.
Tobacco plants cannot host pathogens which cause human disease and illness.
This is not a very complicated technology. It's certainly transportable. Every country has greenhouses.
Or you look at the biotech industry and say, wouldn't you prefer we grew this in a plant? Isn't the current system kind of gross?
Don't you think it's time we stopped using eggs to make vaccines? That technology was invented in the 1930s.
The most common system is big stainless steel bioreactors filled with hamster ovaries. And I would say to you and ask you the question, would you rather put something in your mouth that came out of a plant or something that came out of a hamster ovary? And
in 1999, Medicago started out working with alfalfa. By 2012, they were developing a plan with Philip Morris where they would grow flu vaccines in China. Kentucky Bioprocessing was founded in the United States in 2006 with support from Owensboro Health. In January 2014, tobacco company Reynolds American acquired Kentucky Bioprocessing. In one article, they expressed an interest in using tobacco plants to develop a treatment for lung cancer. Only a few months later, the world became aware of an Ebola outbreak in West Africa. Kentucky Bioprocessing grew 3 separate antibodies inside their Nicotiana plants and provided them together as a medicine called ZMapp.
ZMapp uses 3 antibodies which work together to fight the Ebola virus. It's thought that 2 of the antibodies prevent the virus from invading host cells, while the other antibody targets infected cells to be eliminated by the body's immune system.
Dr. Kent Brantley and aid worker Nancy Wrightbull, they were administered an experimental serum for Ebola and are both seeing remarkable improvement in their conditions.
We get the monkey data in June. By August, our product had been used in a human being, showed efficacy in that human being, used in an emergency situation. Interestingly, the first patients who got it got the exact same material that was used in the monkeys because it was left over. We ran out pretty quick.
At the time, President Obama noted that it wasn't a sure thing yet.
I think we've got to let the science guide us. I don't think all the information's in on whether this drug is helpful.
Later, larger tests of ZMapp failed to provide results, and during a 2018 to 2019 Ebola outbreak, preferred treatment was monoclonal antibodies, which Regeneron grows in mice.
Only 6% of patients who received Regeneron's drug died. 11% of those on Ridgeback Biotherapeutics drug died. Meanwhile, 24% died after receiving a drug called ZMapp, an older treatment briefly tested back in 2014.
In 2020, there was a sudden and obvious need for fast and scalable vaccines. There had never been a vaccine for a coronavirus before, so researchers began investigating new approaches to vaccination. Canada decided to pursue multiple options: American companies Moderna and Pfizer, and the Quebec-based Medicago. It wasn't clear when each company would be ready to deliver the vaccines, and if there was limited supply in the United States, it would be good for Canada to have its own homegrown vaccine and to have it available as an alternative to the mRNA technology. If there were extra doses, Canada could donate them to other countries through the COVAX program. Within a few weeks, Medicago had the virus-like particles that they wanted to manufacture. In May of 2020, they announced successful animal trials. In October, they are part of the Canadian government's vaccine procurement program.
Our government is providing up to $173 million for Medicago to advance their vaccine candidate and create a production facility in Quebec City. We have also reached an agreement with them to supply up to 76 million doses of their vaccine.
Meanwhile, in the United States, Kentucky Bioprocessing also began development of a tobacco-grown vaccine, contemplating whether they could complete it in months.
British American Tobacco says the vaccine is undergoing preclinical testing. The company says it has the potential to be ready as soon as June of this year.
Though throughout this process, there was an awareness that the WHO would resist a tobacco-based vaccine.
And even if a vaccine is developed, the WHO's Framework Convention on Tobacco Control could complicate things, as it prevents tobacco companies from getting involved in matters of public health policy.
If an unsavory organisation is the origin of a vaccine that works and saves millions of lives, we should grasp that opportunity without relaxing in any way the measures that we would all like to see to put the tobacco industry out of business.
In December 2020, Canada approved both Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, and people began to get vaccinated.
This woman, a personal support worker at a Toronto nursing home who has worked countless double shifts, is among the first Canadians to get a COVID-19 vaccine.
April of 2021, around a quarter of Ontario residents had received 1 dose of vaccine. Medicago was still working on phase 3 testing.
Researchers have just launched a late-stage clinical trial on a whole new kind of COVID-19 vaccine, one that's grown in plants. They're looking for volunteers in San Diego.
In June, they released this promotional video.
The plants we use have been carefully selected due to their natural ability to host genetic material. These plants act as mini factories to produce virus-like particles.
The great advantage of the plant is that when you grow those plants, what you need is a field, basically, to make this plant produce the vaccine.
Did you notice something about these 2 videos? At this point, there was a push not to mention that these plants were related to tobacco. OBGYN Dennis Tarkasian made this pitch for the Medicago vaccine.
As you give more and more of these vaccines out to more and more people, you're going to see side effects. And maybe there's another vaccine that's either more efficacious, lasts longer, safer, less side effects. But unless we keep looking, we won't know.
By August of 2021, Canadians were dropping out of Medicago's studies to receive other vaccines and qualify for the vaccine passports. Trials continued in Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina. After releasing results in January 2022, it was time for the vaccine to go public.
The Medicago vaccine is the sixth COVID-19 vaccine authorized by Health Canada. This is the first authorized COVID-19 vaccine developed by a Canadian company. In clinical trials of about 30,000 people, the Medicago vaccine was found to be 71% effective against symptomatic COVID-19. It was also 100% effective against severe disease caused by COVID-19.
But this testing was done prior to the Omicron variant, which was now peaking. The vaccine was known as CoVLP, or the brand name Covifenz. This was the packaging. The Sioux Lookout First Nations Health Authority has a clear fact sheet about the vaccine and its ingredients.
Now it's facing a disappointing rejection by the WHO, which warned this would happen.
Even though Covifenz was available in Canada, there are very few people who were actually using it, so the WHO rejection spelled the end of the project. Online, I found a few Canadians asking for help finding this Medicago Covifenz vaccine. In March, someone asked where they can find it. In June, somebody asked what happened. The next time someone posted about it on Reddit was in fall of 2024. As late as May of 2022, Canada produced training documents like this, which advised doctors and pharmacists to recommend Covifenz for people who were reluctant to take mRNA vaccines. Some Canadians did receive the vaccine. In July of 2022, there was just under 300 of each dose, and if you check the vaccine tracker today, it puts 863 total. At the end of 2022, Mitsubishi bought a larger share of Medicago, finally removing Philip Morris as a shareholder. But only 2 months later, Mitsubishi would shut down the company.
The health minister insists the government doesn't regret investing millions in Medicago.
There are other avenues that we can use to make sure that we are heading in the right direction.
By the end of 2023, $40 million were returned to the Canadian government. I don't have as clear of a story about what happened to Kentucky bioprocessing. By the end of 2020, the focus had shifted from a one-time vaccine to a so-called vaccine platform.
As a vaccine platform. By that, I mean we're using a particular vaccine as a surrogate to prove the concept around an ability to use our system, our technology, to make a wide range of other vaccines.
In 2022, it was reorganized within British American Tobacco into KBio. Earlier this year, KBio announced that they would be closing their facility, but it has just been reacquired by a group of local investors, to be continued. This chapter seems to be mostly forgotten. I was following the news closely in 2020 and never heard about this, but I'm not Canadian. So what ended the first plant-based vaccines? Both companies failed to deliver on time, but many pandemic projects were like that, ultimately becoming backups in case the plan A got derailed. The dream of a plant-grown vaccine became this sort of footnote in a long, complicated story of our recovery from coronavirus. I wonder if with the right plant, the right team, this sort of thing could come together. I don't know if there's some new model organism plant. The people who worked on this, and I should also credit the people who received experimental treatment, we really owe something to them because they did a lot more for public health than, I did sitting at home. Hey everyone, I'm a real human person and not an AI. A small percentage of the people who watch videos to the end click the like button, and that like makes a big difference for this small channel. Thanks for watching.